Okay, Mr. Winograd, we are all set and live.
All right, thank you very much. I am actually here despite all appearances, having some technical difficulties, but everybody else seemed to be able to get on this program. So we'll open the meeting, Public Works Facilities and Sustainability. And because I'm still working on trying to get my camera working, I'll let Rick begin the process of going through the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First on the agenda under business items is approval of minutes from the January 12th, 2023 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. All right, thank you. Third, under communications, I just wanted to quickly acknowledge the work of our public works staff for their hard work on Monday night and Tuesday. Admittedly, we have had far worse winters than we've had so far this year. And this has been the first real significant event of the season. But our crews were out overnight taking on more plow routes than normal due to the fact, as we've talked about in past meetings, we're still short a few contractors for our routes. But our residents did not, incur or see that shortage of manpower thanks to the hard work of our DPW staff who worked hard and efficiently to keep our streets clean. So just a big thank you to everyone down at the Department of Public Works for their efforts earlier this week. And that's all I had under communications. Under staff reports, we would turn to Catherine Mistavini, who would give us an update, a sustainability update. For you, Mr. Chairman, Catherine Davidi.
Thank you, Catherine.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. So I'll just hit some of the bullet points that were in my summary report. I noticed that I have to make a few typo corrections and date corrections to that summary. So I apologize for those and I'll get those done before we finalize the minutes. So our Conservation and Environment and Clean Energy Commissions are a very brave, dedicated group of individuals who met on Monday night. and I can tell you that going home at 9:30 at night was a little tricky. But we had a room full, and we had Helen Rubino Churker, our Director of Leisure Services and Social Services, was the guest speaker for that group that evening. So it was very nice of her to come out too. So I just wanted to ask again that commission, one thing that always comes up at our meetings is the status of the ordinance, combining those two commissions. So hopefully we might be able to get that in front of this committee sometime and then in front of town council. They're eager to fill some vacant positions they have, get some more knowledgeable people on board, and kind of, it's not stopping them, believe me. They've got a lot going on already, but they would like to kind of formalize that combination, which you all seem to support as well. So moving along, I'll just touch on they're making plans. We actually had a planning meeting today. I think we are going to be doing an Earth Day event at Town Hall combined with the West Hartford Public Schools Foundation. It's kind of an exciting combination, and we're excited about it. So more to come on that, but there'll be some educational Earth Day activities. And we'll be able to showcase some of the projects that the town has in the works, like Catherine Bruns, our recycling coordinator's food scrap program in the cafeteria, some of the solar on our town buildings. We're thinking about, it's later in my report, but we're thinking about maybe parking our new electric vehicle. We finally got an e-transit van. It's sitting down at Department of Public Works, waiting for its logo to be designed. So we're working on that right now, but we might park that right out front and try and draw some crowds in. What else? The commissions are starting to form some work groups to help with the curbside organics pilot that John, I'm sure, will talk about. They're also interested in sustainable landscaping, as well as, like I mentioned, some groups to plan Earth Day and some other outreach activities. Our Heat Smart program has finally wrapped up. That was a very successful energy campaign that nearly doubled the number of home energy solutions audits that had been done in town in 1 year. And they're planning a little activity just to thank all their residents and business partners on that program. And then what I've been spending my time on lately is I'm sort of gearing up a year ahead of time for the town's application to the Sustainable Connecticut program for gold certification. This is going to be a big endeavor. And the first step is kind of taking stock of where we are, what actions we already kind of have in the bank in terms of points, and what new actions we would need to complete to earn enough points for gold level certification there. So after I kind of go through and complete that baseline assessment, I'll be asking Rick to convene some meetings with directors so that we can look at kind of the actions that fall under different departments' purview. What else do I have on here? Feel free to ask me any questions. We're going to be kicking off another kind of energy efficiency initiative, this time in partnership with Eversource. It's been several years, about 8 years actually, since we did a large comprehensive portfolio of energy efficiency projects. And a lot of things has happened in betweens in terms of technology and COVID. So we regressed a little bit actually in terms of energy use. And I think it's time to kind of assess all of our schools as a portfolio, and Eversource has agreed to kind of partner with the town on a multi-year kind of comprehensive initiative, which will look at low and no cost measures, as well as maybe some more strategic capital planning. We're also, we've revamped some efforts to tackle the remaining street lights that we have out in the town. You probably see some of them around every once in a while that are those bright orange ones. They look a little out of place now, but those are our remaining, what we call high pressure sodium lights. Some of them, actually quite a few of them, are our decorative lamppost style fixtures. And those are very costly to replace. They're kind of ornate, expensive fixtures, and sometimes we have to replace the cast iron poles along with them. So we've been planning, plant facilities, kind of engineering and public works together, how we can get through the remaining lights there. I mentioned our first EV is here, and then John will probably speak to it too, but we've kicked off some meetings as well on the comprehensive electric vehicle charging project that we're working with Stantec Consulting on. So that just recently kicked off project meetings as well. That's it for my summary. Can I answer any questions?
I'll open up for questions. Now I feel more comfortable that my video works.
I have a question.
Carol, yes.
Just a quick question for you, Catherine. I'm curious, what is the replacement cost or the cost for those lamp style fixtures, since they are ornate and probably, I don't want to say old, but maybe mature?
Yeah. So, so the ones that you see like in front of Town Hall and down in Blueback Square, the ones that we call are sort of acorn shape. If you replace the whole fixture, that includes the globe and all the LED module inside it, that's kind of one piece that can get replaced. That is actually about $1,700 for that whole thing. Yeah. So they don't pay for themselves in terms of energy savings. So it really becomes more of a capital improvement project. What we have been doing is evaluating locations where sometimes we have a double fixture, and there may be enough light along that street to go to a single fixture. So there's some additional energy savings and cost savings there. The entire Park Road project was redesigned with single fixtures instead of double fixtures. So that's something that engineering works through as well to see what's the best for that particular street layout.
Thank you. And I've noticed those along Park Road, so thank you for clearing that up for me.
Yeah, Park Road came out really nicely.
Thank you. And Mark, you had a question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Carol, for that question. I just have a little follow-up on that, Catherine, is that, you know, outside of the municipal areas, and I can't speak, well, your private sectors is a return on investment. And at $1,700 with no return on investment, as you mentioned, how much does it make sense? Listen, I'm all for lowering and doing things for the environment, but there's a cost associated with it. And how, you know, I always go back to your household. You know, if you could replace a bulb for $1,700 in your house and save $2,000 over 5 years, you might make that decision. But if you're going to replace a bulb in your house for $1,700 and never get back the money, you probably wouldn't do it. Doesn't make sense. So I'm just wondering where the thought process is on like making a business decision on that outside of the environmental decision.
So we've weighed, we have explored all the options from relamping the old existing fixtures, which is a more cost-effective measure. But, you know, there are some logistical difficulties with that, like the light bulbs don't fit, they overheat. Sometimes you have to take out the night shield to get the light bulb to fit in. So that would be a cheaper solution. In fact, actually, when I said they don't pay for themselves, that's immediately. They will pay for themselves over time. There's a lot lower maintenance associated with the brand new LED fixtures. The lighting guys in Public Works actually say that some of the LED fixtures we've replaced, they haven't had to touch at all, you know, for many, 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 many years, which is not the case with replacement lamps or the old style fixtures where they're constantly needing maintenance, ballast replaced, new light bulbs every 3 or 4 years. So you really have to take a life cycle approach to it. And so that $1,700, you know, you might be spending every 12 years instead of relamping and going out for maintenance and doing a whole bunch of things. So we do weigh those different options. But there's also, you know, there are also non-business reasons. You know, those lampposts and that old style is pretty, and it's an aesthetic that is part of West Hartford downtown, you know, so you can't really quantify things like that.
No, I appreciate that. And the look itself, I understand that completely, the style. I'm just talking about the bulb and the $1,700 that you speak of. What is the return on investment though? So if you replace one pole at $1,700, and I'm assuming that's the entire pole, I guess I'm confused now because I thought that was just the bell housing on top, not the entire pole. Okay, so the 1,700, what is
the whole fixture head that sits on top of the cast iron pole?
Right. So what's the return on investment for each light at $1,700?
Well, again, that depends whether it's replacing an old HID fixture or an existing LED fixture, whether we're going from 2 fixtures to 1 fixture, you know, but I would say it's around, you know, it could vary from 15 years to 40 years.
No further questions, right? Okay.
Thank you. Catherine, just not to jump on board on that same topic. As we sort of start up Vision Zero, on pedestrian safety. It does sort of revive the question that we've had, over the years, about lighting of our streets and whether or not there's proper lighting, and certainly, the environmental advantages, fewer bulbs and all that sort of thing that we moved over to. There were complaints at the time when we switched over, and I'm wondering just how we're going to address it. And again, as we talk about Vision Zero, sort of the pedestrian safety and crossings and that sort of thing, and whether we're going to have any sort of conflict between those goals. Because I know certainly a lot of the streets where we put bulbs in every other light post as opposed to every one. It's certainly advantageous for light pollution issues, but have always worried about, and sort of continue now with more focus, worry about whether that does have any impact on bike and especially pedestrian safety. I don't know if that's for you or for John, but I just
it'll certainly
we'll have to get to.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, and then John certainly can add. John is part of the Vision Zero committee, and this is something, as part of the work that we'll be doing as a committee. It'll be one of those topics that we will discuss and kind of assess townwide. It's interesting that that we bring this up. It's since everything that happened in December with those tragedies and folks kind of sending in their opinions on certain parts of town, things that we can change in terms of design, street design and things like that. One topic that has come up quite a bit has been that very topic, and that's the lighting around town and folks seeming or perceiving things to be less lit up as they may have been in the past in certain neighborhoods. So that'll be certainly something that we will that'll be part of what we're doing as a Vision Zero task force. John, I don't know if you add anything to that.
No, you've touched on it. I mean, the biggest thing, because I think the candle up power is very similar to what we had, but the metal halogens had more of a glow, and the LEDs have more of a direct lighting application. So you're only getting the sidewalk and the actual street. Majority of the complaints that certainly Public Works receives is my front yard's not lit anymore, and those kinds of, that kind of thing. Well, they're not intended to light your front yard. They're intended to glow the street and the the immediate sidewalk areas. But there is, Ben, you're right. We did have complaints in that space, and like the town manager said, it's something that needs to be considered, and finding that balance between energy conservation, what's right, light pollution versus public safety.
All right. Well, thank you, and again, no easy answers on that, but glad you're considering it. Catherine.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to another thought popped into my head for Mr. Zdanowicz. I gave you such a variation because we don't really look at it as a single one-for-one replacement. When you're replacing lights, your payback is on the whole project. And one fixture might have a long payback and another fixture is going to have a shorter payback because of the existing conditions around that one light. So, on average, if you take 15 years and 40 years, you're going to be shorter than 40.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you for the clarification. So, again, I guess, I wouldn't be looking for an individual return on investment. I would look at a project return on investment. Yeah. So if you're looking at the whole project, like you stated, then what's that return on investment between 15 and 40 years? If that's the case, that's the kind of information I'm looking for.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking at right now to decide how we're going to proceed with this project. And that's why we haven't done them to date, because they haven't been cost effective and they are such spendy fixtures. That's why you still see those as the remaining piece yet to do.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. So I think we can probably go on. Deb, did you want to have a question?
Yeah, just a quick question. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'm looking ahead to the gold level certification that we'll be applying for next year. Do we have any idea what those items will be that would push us to gold level versus silver? And when do you think we'll get that list if we don't have it yet, so that when we start thinking about projects over the next year, we don't spend money on something that's going to then have us lose points towards that gold level certification?
So that is the exact that's the exact piece that I'm working on right now. Going through the list, Sustainable Connecticut has a list of hundreds and hundreds of actions in the program. So I know what we did to achieve silver. I know what we submitted for. You know, we went through all the actions. I know what actions were in progress, but we didn't complete by the last certification cycle. So maybe some of those actions have been completed already and we can move those into the yes category. But I go through a whole exercise where I have this list of hundreds of actions and I say yes, no, maybe. And then we sit down, like I said, with a lot of the directors, with Rick, with other people, and kind of go through it and say what is achievable and where are our gaps and what are we going to need to work on. And then, you know, just because it's a sustainable Connecticut action doesn't make it a town priority. We have to have that conversation too.
Right. Now, so do we know yet though what additional things we'll need to do in order to get to gold, or have they not made that announcement?
No, I said that, like I said, that's what I'm working on right now, going through the spreadsheet to identify what we will need to do.
I don't think I'm asking the question the right way, but we can talk offline. I don't want to take up too much time. It's okay. That's my bad. I don't think I'm asking the right question the right way.
Sure, feel free to get in touch with me. We can talk offline.
I will. Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. If there's nothing else, well, we can move on. The facilities, Bob, do you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. So daily operations, our buildings continue to perform well. We had that cold snap in early February. Buildings did very well. We just had one minor issue at the police department. We had a sprinkler head that froze up and let go. But obviously that building's occupied 24/7, so people were there. We were able to contain that. So we did really well. We did a lot of preparation and preventative actions in order to prevent our buildings from freezing up. I think you saw a lot of commercial and other municipalities had some issues with that couple of days of cold weather, but again, we really fared very well. So the boiler at fire station number 5 has been replaced by the manufacturer. Thanks to the efforts of Chief Priest harassing the manufacturer, even though it was 7 years old. So that's a nice accomplishment there. And we're continuing to have really good staffing retention levels, even with the labor market the way it is right now. So we're doing really well. So, new Elmwood Community Center. So obviously the feasibility study has wrapped up. So next steps in that are to begin the demolition design process. In the original allocations that were made in the last few years, we do have monies to begin that process, to begin the design, and hopefully we have enough money to actually begin the demolition project itself. So those would be the next steps coming up. We're continuing to utilize that building for a variety of different things for the police training, emergency management's got some operations down there. There's a food distribution that happens down there every 2 weeks. And we also have the temporary dog park that's down there too. So it's being utilized at this point. So capital projects. So, you know, we're bidding projects and things are coming in still a little bit higher. It seems a little bit better. Some recent projects came in higher than originally estimated in the last year, but reasonable, I think. You know, maybe our expectations have changed a little bit just because we've been in this for so long. So, but again, we continue to adjust project schedules and scopes in order to stay within the budget allocations that we have. So on the town side, the animal control facility, we are substantially completed on the design of the building. However, you might be aware, we recently just purchased the properties on Oakwood and Brixton Street. So the desire is to try and relocate the animal control facility to that site. That would free up some space for the materials project that John is working on and give DPW a little bit more room to maneuver down there. So we are going to begin to explore that right away. So Rick, are you aware of the closing that had happened in the last few days? I didn't get official.
The closing occurred yesterday. What's
Yesterday?
today? The
Okay.
2nd? No, the 28th. Sorry.
20th Tuesday.
Yeah. So we're the proud owner of some more old buildings.
Very good. Go have fun.
Public facilities assessment. We selected Tecton. I think I've talked about that before. We are scheduling a kickoff meeting for next week with all the stakeholders in that, so that'll begin that process. We're currently replacing the DPW roof over the old section of garage. That's actually because the weather has been so good this winter, we've been able to actually begin that project. And even next week, the weather looks pretty good, so we'll be able to continue. So I've been interested that we can do that. Townwide generators, we recently completed the design of the initial sites. Would be the town hall, the 2 high schools, and fire station number 1. It's in review with various different town staff right now. Before we go to bid, we're just waiting on word from the state about a grant opportunity there, that pretty substantial grant opportunity that would cover a lot of that cost. So we're getting ready to go on that. And as I talked about, I think in the last meeting, there's very long lead times on, especially on the larger generators for the high schools and the town hall. So it would be a couple of years before those would actually be in place and operational. The fire station one would go much faster. For Board of Ed completed and current projects, air handler replacement at King Philip was finally delivered. The install is in process. And again, very long lead times on any type of ventilation, electrical, those types of things are taking 9 to 12 months at this point. So, fresh air for Duffy and Webster Hills. The designs are complete. Duffy is going to bid. We had to work through some issues in the last month with FM Global, who's our insurance carrier, regarding the window replacements. So I think we're good there. We're ready to go to bid on that. We're going to hold on Webster Hill a little bit to see how the Duffy bid goes, see what kind of costs we get, and then we'll proceed with that. Tennis court replacements for Hall and Conard are substantially complete. We just have the final sports coating to go on later in the spring after the spring tennis season. They will play on the bigger concrete surface this year, and then we'll put the final play surface on in June once the weather warms up. So we have auditorium seating replacements. Deb, I think you'll be very excited to see that those are proceeding at both Hall and King Philip. We have flooring replacement scheduled for this summer at King Philip and Norfolk Gym. It's interesting, the Norfolk Gym has asbestos tile as the original floor from the 50s, which is held up very well because it's asbestos, but it's a very rough surface for the gym. So we're actually going to go in with a rubber flooring in that. It's a hard rubber flooring for that gymnasium. We installed that about 8 years ago at Elmwood Community Center. It's really worked out very well. It's very durable. People really enjoy that surface. A little bit softer than a typical floor, but it does hold up well. So it's a good solution there. So restroom renovations at Sedgwick, we completed that phase 1 last summer. We're going out to bid for the second one this year. And we're just about ready to go to bid on the Duffy front entrance security improvements. This will be the one of the last major types of these projects. We still do have Wolcott to do it next summer, but this one is one of the few last ones that we're going to do. So, through you, Mr. Chairman, be glad to take any questions.
Very good. Thank you for that very complete report. I will note that to you and John, the wood chips being delivered to the dog park have been a big help.
That's all, Mr. Phillips.
It seems to be getting there for that swamp we stuck there. So a little bit better. And that'll be all the work on that, of course, is appreciated. Mark, you had a question?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Bob, for the report. Appreciate it. Um, I remember you talking about the bids coming in and what you were used to was X dollars and that you anticipated them being, I forgot the exact numbers. I'll just make them up for illustrative purposes, 20% higher, if you will. I don't remember the exact number, but you did. And you mentioned that you're still kind of surprised at the bids that came in, even at that. So is that supply chain and is that still affecting us and it's even greater than you expected, even though you kind of increased the numbers? Is that the case?
Yeah, I think the duration, I think the industry literature was saying it, was going to be a year and a half kind of thing. It still continues. So, and even, and again, sometimes lead times that come back on some of the items that we're speccing are just increasing. So every, in the Duffy and Webster Hill meetings, every time we have a meeting on those, the lead times on electrical components just gets longer. So the same thing with this, same thing on the generators, the larger generators. Every time we sat and had a meeting with the engineer, and he's in constant contact with the manufacturers, and the lead times just keep going and going and going. And they're experiencing problems with getting supplies for their stuff. They're having labor issues on their side. So that it's just impacted everywhere. So and then but it's good to know. We're asking the questions really early in the design process and trying to spec products that don't have those long lead times, or we're making adjustments and substituting other projects that will help us to expedite the schedules and lower costs. So,
Thanks. And one real quick question too is the windows. I remember this has been a longstanding issue, especially at Duffy. I toured the place back in the Board of Ed days, and so that's a longstanding issue. And I remember talking about it. But obviously there's new technology. I'm sure you're tracking it. And not necessarily new, the whole low E thing and stuff, because of the sunlight and stuff. There's a ceramic coating that goes on as well outside of the low E, and it really hasn't been for homes. I don't know how about for commercials, but a lot of cars actually use it now, and it's supposed to keep out 80% of the heat. And I know that's an issue for us. And I'm wondering if that's in the forecasted at all either.
Yeah, so these windows are going to meet the current energy and building codes and even exceed that. And I've talked about FM Global. Their requirements for wind are actually substantially above building code level. So, and Catherine's been part of our discussions on these projects with the windows and Duffy and stuff like that. So all those things that you mentioned are in there with those windows. They're going to be high efficiency. We are, at some of those buildings like Duffy, we had infilled windows. Well, I didn't. They did back in the 70s during the energy crisis. They had, basically infilled the windows in order to reduce the number of windows. But we're actually going back to full windows. But we won't go as high and as low. We'll use some insulated panels, but we'll get more light into those classrooms, which is a very important feature in the classroom. To have natural light in there really improves the learning environment substantially. So, and it also saves us energy with the lighting. So,
all right, great. Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
Carol, you had a question. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Through you, Chairman Winograd. Bob, quick question for you, going back to the demolition design process. What does that mean exactly? Do you and the team observe or look at what part of the building needs to come down in phases? So can you just explain to me what that?
Yeah, so the demolition process, because there's going to be environmental issues there. So you need to engage even if you were just going to demolish the building, you still have to engage design professionals to help you figure that out. How is the building going to come down? So it'll be mostly an environmental engineering firm that will help us kind of assess what we have in there, and then help us determine how to dispose of the building and where it's going to go ultimately. So it's a complicated process. So it's there's a lot of EPA deep types of rules that are going to have to be followed and that type of thing. So we'll do the best we can to do that. We know that we have some things in there. You know, we assume that we have lead and asbestos. We could possibly have the PCBs also. So we'll have to you know, to kind of look at what we think is in there, and then they'll do some testing and figure that out. So.
Okay, thank you. One of the reasons why I brought that up is sort of put me in mind of how the old Charter Oak was demolished and how you just kind of had these parade of trucks sort of in an orchestrated fashion.
Yes, we
So,
did.
all right.
Yep.
Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? Deb, I think Mayor Cantor is on, although I think she would have put a camera on if she had a question. Deb, anything? No. All right. Well, thank you very much, Rob. Appreciate it, as always. And now, John, and again, you actually had work this week. Okay.
Through the chair, John Phillips, Director of
Finally
Public
got
Works.
to plow.
We did have a lot of
work
work.
a great job. Everything was done very smoothly. It was good to see.
Thank you, Ben. Again, John Phillips for the chair, Director of Public Works. Yes, thanks for mentioning the storm activity this week. Again, the crews did very well. Rick Ledwith, the town manager, mentioned as well. I do want to, add just a little bit to that, because during the month of the review period, our monthly reports, we did have a few minor activities, mostly in the realm of icing activities. But the entire department over the last year has been going through what they call a Connecticut Green Snow Pro training. We have just about every single employee has gone through it. We just got a few of our newer ones that are scheduled to go through it later this month. Though we joke down at Public Works, it's a running joke, and I'm usually the butt of most of those jokes about being very strict on salt use and being a salt miser to the staff and not letting them do their job. But you take the joking aside, they're really taking to the training. We're putting down the right amount of material that is environmentally sensitive, but yet still accountable to the safety procedure, the level of safety we need to provide in our transportation system. And that's critical because obviously salt is not, it's a pick your poison issue, right? Salt is definitely necessary for a safe transportation system, but it has an evil to it. And obviously it's the deterioration of our infrastructure, concrete products, steel products, our trucks, your home vehicles that you drive, bridges, etc. But I think for your knowledge, you need to know that the team at Public Works, and it goes all the way through our school department who maintain this parking lots, have had the training, and we joke about it, but they truly do understand it and they're applying it. And I know this for a fact because a lot of employees now come and talk to me about what they see in other municipalities or what DOT is doing, and they're relating it to an application rate and what they do. So it makes me feel good that the training's sticking and they're actually applying the training that we're providing. So it is a credit to their professionalism and their skill sets. Like you've heard me say this before, it's not your grandfather's Public Works anymore. It really takes a high intellect and understanding of what their role is and that their work matters beyond what the immediate application of salt and snow and ice control. So other notables in the monthly reports we have, we met last week with Lorario Engineering, or AKA LEA, is going to be as our proposed partner for the Material Solutions Center. We met with town manager Rick Ledwith and Peter Privatera, the town's financial director, and we're really getting closer to what is being classified as phase 4 of the facility. And that's the design build of the actual transfer station. And we talked about what the financials would look like and share some cost sharing activities. And so we're moving forward on finalizing, or really coming up to a draft anyways, of that private public partnership for the transfer station, and moving forward on that. Right now, we're currently in the middle of just finishing up phase 2, entering phase 3. Phase 2 is the application process of all the permitting you'll need to manage our waste at the landfill, really updating a lot of the permits that have been there in place for a long time, but they're really dated and they need to be modernized to today's DEP standards, as well as the application to officially cap our 1974 closed landfill with all the right environmental stormwater management measures that need to be in place for a landfill, so that monitoring can take better and more proper monitoring will take place in the future. But the most important thing is shedding the water off so it's not leaching through. the buried trash and ash that is the town landfill. So again, we're moving forward on that, and again, more to come. We did have a soft kickoff meeting with our EVSE consultant, Stantec. And so we basically it's really more of a data crunch, pulling in data, getting them information so they can start building baseline reports and start developing our mission and our goals that we want to set with our EVSE, which is, again, EVSEs are the electrical charging stations. Again, it's a town-wide look, a community charging plan, as well as looking at updates or modernizing our planning and zoning regulations to include charging stations on developments and such. So we've set schedules of a bi-weekly meeting so we can keep track of the project, and we'll continue to report on progress with that. I know the question came up about going for certification gold. This would be a key project going for sustainability gold. That we're doing the studies and doing an infrastructure plan, and any implementation will help us move forward to achieving gold status there. So we're excited about and entering in that, right? So we're excited about that. We're finally kicking this off, and we're excited that hopefully within, really, I'm hoping by the end of this, let's call it just 9 to 12 months, we'll actually see charging stations in key locations in town and continue to look forward in developing where other charging stations need to be, so we can help with the EV, electric vehicle adoption rate, and not just our community, but participating in a statewide effort there, if not a national effort on that side. You may catch noise on this, but we have publicly started announcing new recycling center hours at the town's recycling center. Again, it's related to the project of developing a full scoped material solution center and the capping of the landfill. Really, the biggest thing is that we close out the activity of any contractors that would come to the facility. Again, and just give you some knowledge so that if you are questioned on it, you receive some of your constituents' comments. Please know that the one misconception is that contractors were bringing their material to Public Works, and Public Works was receiving the material. That's not the case. It's never been the case for 30 years that this model is in place. Contractors would bring their material to the contractor that was operating a commercial operation on our property. Now, operating on our property helped us save and reduce our cost of materials that the municipality generates, but that was in turn obviously allowing them to operate a commercial business. And so what's happening here, from the standpoint of stopping the commercial pieces, Supreme, who was a contractor on site, did not rebid their job. They were unwilling to and didn't have the interest in expanding the scope of work for what we needed in the facility for a transfer station. So this is just a natural sunset of the contract and then pulling off the site. Nobody bid the job in the sense of what has been happening in the site for 30 years. So we don't have a contractor to even receive the material from commercial entities. But again, that happens on April 1st. Well, we closed down on Friday the 24th for a week. We'll finish that transition and that shutdown of that operation. And then on April 5th, Wednesday, April 5th, we'll open up with a new vendor, not new to us, Payne's, our waste management company. We worked out an amendment to their hauling contract. They'll provide the gate attendant, if you would, to manage the facility, customer service, receive the recycled materials that come in, help with customer service, help with education, and then transfer the materials that do come out to their proper disposal locations. For the next year, it'll really be just the residential recycling center that will be in operation. The rest of the facility, as I mentioned, will be undergoing the capping, which again, you got to stop operations so you can cap it, and as well as working through the pilot issues and implementation of the material solution center and the design build process, which I classified as phase 4 of this project. So again, we've done the public announcements. There are signs out as they come through the gate on Supreme, who operates the site. They're handing out pamphlets announcing the closure and their departure from the facility. Now they're willing to take material, and they're at their main headquarters in Southington. It's a bit of a drive for West Hartford, but they do want the material. New Care Denali on Colts Highway in Farmington, which is only 6 miles from the center of West Hartford, from 50 South Main Street. They receive the same material, so they're open for business. And Green Recycling, which is 9 miles from the center of West Hartford in Bloomfield, also receives this material. So there is absorption, if you would, from this material to go other places. And so the contractors that were bringing the materials to Supreme will find other places, and they'll find their efficiencies and bring the material to generate from their commercial accounts and go to those locations. But again, I just want to bring that to your attention that April 1st is a significant date, or close, really just sunsetting an era, if you would, 30-year era of that kind of activity as we transition to a more comprehensive waste management programming down at the town's landfill at Brixton Street. Catherine Bruns is with us this evening. If you did not see the Hartford Current the other day, she participated with the Hartford Current, and they highlighted front page too, I believe was front page, where they highlighted Duffy School and the waste management program, or the food scrap management program that we're having in schools. It's going very well under Catherine Bruns' leadership. We're excited about it. The kids are excited about it. We have school staff champions really pushing it along. So I thought it was a great article and a great exposure for the town of West Hartford and our West Hartford public school system. Moving on to the pilot program that is gearing up to start beginning, as we're still doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff. You'll be happy to know, after our RFP process for the collector of the food waste materials, we did decide collectively as a committee to give the award to Blue Earth. They had an excellent proposal. Personally, I'm not surprised, because they've been more grassroots with DEP developing this program and the grant that it was offered and that the town council received a couple months ago. But they had a comprehensive plan. Their willingness and their energy to be successful at it was felt in their proposal, and I think it's the right choice by awarding the contract to Blue Earth. So we're excited about kicking that off. And Catherine can chime in if she wants, but she provided me a timeline of the pilot. So February, we're still, again, we signed the contract with Blue Earth. We're planning weekly and ongoing with Waste Zero, who is the grant program manager for DEP, speaking with now Blue Earth on a regular basis and developing the literature we need. Weekly check-ins with other grant recipients in towns, lessons learned, learning from what they've experienced in the rollout, which will help us have a more comprehensive and detailed rollout ourselves. Coming in the month of March, again, early, we're starting to order the materials that we just placed the order for the food waste buckets. Through Blue Earth's recommendation, we're going with a 6-gallon bucket, but it's got a lot of great ergonomics to it, where it should not be a heavy lift. It's got a nice large handle, so you're not bending too far down to pick it up. The top latches versus twist off. And so through their recommendation, I agree with the recommendation. So we're moving on that purchase. The website will launch, if it hasn't launched already, for reduced trash, Connecticut.com/West Hartford, which will be dedicated to our program and all of our educational materials. August 28th, or closest to, we'll be bringing in, having town influencer meetings to establish good understanding of what the program is and preparing for a wide variety of questions, and really just being prepared for that initial rollout and communication with the public. And so we're working towards that. Once April sets in, we'll start the community meetings, that community outreach, and getting the word out to folks, having community meetings. And again, the target is obviously the participants in the pilot area. We'll work with other community groups. Again, what Catherine Davini brought up, the Clean Energy Task Force groups, as they break off in their smaller communities to participate in this program. Again, she mentioned April 24th that week, distributing around Earth Day, distributing materials. We'll start delivering the buckets if they're in, and all the bags and other educational pamphlets. Obviously, ongoing social media activity will be happening. So this all builds up to a target date of May 1st for start date of the pilot program. And I know a lot of the emphasis is on the food waste piece of it, but remember, it's also a pay-as-you-throw pilot program, because they do go hand in hand. You're not really going to have one without the other, and I think it's important for us to test the model, see how it's been talked about so much over the last several years. It is a priority of DEP to move Connecticut's waste program into a unit-based pricing model statewide. Again, 15 communities are participating in that activity. And so it's really just time to do it as a pilot, see if it really works. We have a good baseline of weight out of this participating neighborhood. We've been weighing it every Monday, so we'll really be able to see in real time whether weights start dropping down, and really the diversion of weights going where it should be. So we're excited. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot to do to really kick this off for May 1st. And those are really the notables. Again, the report has a lot of other information per Ben's recommendation. There's our parking information, which again, we continue to still recover to pre-COVID numbers, but the center is as vibrant as it's ever been. Overall, because of changes we've made, because of what we've learned through the pandemic, we're down about 16 on-street spaces overall due to quick short visit stop pickups, delivery pickups, other areas, and we're down about 16 spaces off street for the same reasons. Plus, we've had to accommodate larger trash barrels, commercial trash cans in our off street lots due to the high volume of waste materials being generated due to the vibrancy of West Hartford Center. Happy to take any questions. I know I gave you a lot, and I'll take any questions on any issues that Public Works is facing right now.
Great. Thanks very much, John. Again, complete as always. Oh, my dog has a question. She wants some of that recycled that waste. She's looking for the food scraps.
Oh yeah, every dog will be.
Anybody have any questions? Carol.
I have a quick question through you, Chair, for you, John. I think it was Tuesday night. So that was right after the snowfall and the cleanup by your team. And this was on LaSalle. And you know how you have the snow in the middle?
Yep.
So I did see cars going in the opposite direction. So do we relax something with the snowstorm, or they were just going incorrectly? They were going the wrong way.
They were going incorrectly, going the wrong way. There are clear signs that say do not enter one-way traffic patterns.
Okay. So perhaps we
unfortunately,
can
that's a human behavior issue.
Yeah.
I think we bunch of us went out for Leon afterwards. So the whole bunch of the council noticing it. I guess I think the issue was that because they left snow in the middle, it kind of made it look like two separate, like the way it used to be, because there's no other access to that sort of other side. You're sort of on one side or the other of a divider, and that made it feel like if you kind of went on the left side, you sort of feel like you're on the wrong side of a one-way street. I think it's just a factor of plowing into the middle of the lane. It looks like a separated highway kind of thing, but I'm not sure there's any way to fix that.
Right. So for me, I'm just thinking of it as a public safety issue. I know it's just the one big snowstorm that we had, but it's just something for us to think about. If we can be proactive to prevent something. And like you said, I know we have signs posted, but just something for you to consider.
Yep. Again, we've been practicing that. I introduced that methodology of snow clear almost 20 years ago. Obviously, it helps the business district because you would close out all the parking spots if that snow was in the parking stalls, and then you would just have the travel lanes. And so that's what we do. We bring it to the middle. It sits there for that one day. We come back that very next night and we pick it up and it goes away. We do our best to keep it tight and keep traffic patterns. Again, we're obviously relying on people to follow the traffic rules, but I understand Ben's perspective. It could be somewhat confusing, I guess, but when you're in the parking stall, you only have one way to pull out. And if you go against the grain, you're definitely making a conscious decision to go opposite direction of way you came in, even though there is that center divider. But you're right, it does look like a double lane. Hopefully some of those things get cleared up as we make decisions on how we reconstruct LaSalle Road anyways, because we may have to modify the way we do snow, but we're still going to window it somewhere in the street because that's the most convenient way to pick it up and get it removed.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Deb.
Yeah, thank you. Thinking ahead to the communications around the pilot project, wondering if you're working with Morley School to try to educate the families, since that's a really active school community and that's the neighborhood where the pilot's going to be taking place. So it could be a good opportunity.
I'll let Catherine, you want to answer that? How your work and what we have scheduled for Morley School's cafeteria or no, their auditorium?
Could you ask the question one more time?
Yes, my question is if you're coordinating with Morley School to get the word out about the pilot project.
Yeah, so our plan is I haven't booked the time yet, but I was planning the first week of April. One of the things John listed for outreach opportunities, we thought it'd be good to meet in the Morley Auditorium. And so the thought is to have some yard signs in the Morley neighborhood about the program and have maybe even a pizza night. Like John said, I've been participating every week with the other towns who are doing the, who've started the grants ahead of us. And some of the things that they've learned is that if you don't get positive messaging out first, there's a lot of negative pushback in the empty space. So that's why I'm being so proactive to make sure everybody who is going to be asked questions understands the program. So that's on a bigger level, but we want to meet at Morley with the neighborhood, and then Bishop's Corner Library for maybe the more senior citizens, a morning meeting maybe. But one thing they said that really attracts people to come is to have pizza, or if it's at Bishop's Corner, have donuts or something like that, and make it very inviting, and also have the Blue Earth bins there to dispose of the material and just sort of show how it works. So that's the plan. Yeah, Morley is very much.
I think that's great. Morley is such an active community, and I think if you work there with their PTO and maybe even some of the classroom teachers or the librarian, I think you'll get a lot of excitement built up.
And it's been successful at Morley too, because the food scraps, that was the school we started in January, and it's going pretty well there. So yeah, so yes, very much. That's part of the intention too of that neighborhood is very active that way. And Fern Street, that corridor is a commuter route, as is Asylum. And so the program will be visible on the days the bins are out, and that will garner curiosity and it'll give it some high visibility.
Very good. Thank you very much. And unless there are no more questions, it looks like we've come about to the end of our agenda. If anybody has any topics they'd like to have raised or issues like our directors to bring up, on one thing, by next time we might get the sort of end of season report on plowing. We might be able to summarize how the year went. But
I can do that.
or not, maybe we're jinxing it, but you know.
No.
if we're done, maybe we get that, you know, sort of that wrap up. But if nobody has anything else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. We stand adjourned, and thank you all for coming, and enjoy the rest of this week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.